use of assets is aimed at financing the project development of the capital city. The Ministry of Finance confirmed that it had started the process of mapping the utilization of state assets as part of the planning to move the state capital to East Kalimantan. Director General of State Assets of the Ministry of Finance, Ronald Silaban, explained that currently the mapping of which assets can be monetized to finance the new national capital is still being carried out. Ronald explained that to seek additional budget, the Ministry of Finance would utilize assets owned by the government in two ways. First, by leasing the asset, and second, by transferring or selling the asset.
Pada dasarnya ada dua cara untuk mendapatkan monetisasi. Yang pertama melalui pemanfaatan, kemudian yang kedua melalui pemindah tanganan. Namun pada akhirnya itu sangat bergantung dari sekuens instansi mana yang lebih dulu akan pindah ke ibu kota negara baru. Sehingga nanti kita bisa memiliki rencana terhadap monetisasi. DJKN sendiri memang sudah melakukan diskusi dengan para pelaku pasar untuk melihat minat dari para pelaku pasar.
Previously, Bappenas said that the plan to move the capital city was still ongoing. However, Bappenas emphasized that this plan is a big plan that will take up to 20 years in the future. From Jakarta, Raharjo Patmo for IDX Channel. Meantime, public policy observers assess the government's ambition to continue the plan to move the new capital city is very forced. Observers say the finance ministry has signaled that the country does not have sufficient fiscal capacity to fund the new capital project. Public policy observer Said Didu said that moving the country's capital was the personal ambition of President Joko Widodo. However, the new capital city project actually received a nod from the internal government itself. Said Didu suspected that the finance ministry had actually mentioned the state's inability to finance this project. This can be seen from the Ministry of Finance, which provides two financing options, namely by leasing assets or selling state assets in Jakarta. This option reinforces the notion that the state does not have sufficient fiscal capacity.
Sebenarnya Menteri Keuangan terutama saya kali ini salut kepada Kementerian Keuangan yang secara terbuka sebenarnya Bapak Presiden ini kita tidak punya uang. Itu kata-kata politisnya sehingga menyatakan akan menjual aset, menyewakan aset. Itu kata-kata sebenarnya menyatakan itu adalah teguran kepada, bukan peringatan kepada Presiden, Bapak Presiden ini kita.
The Indonesian Retail Entrepreneurs Association, or APRindo, projects retail growth of only 2.5 to 3% in the third quarter of 2021. The Indonesian Retail Entrepreneurs Association, or APRindo, projects retail growth of only 2.5 to 3% in the third quarter of 2021. The figure is down from the position of the second quarter of 2021, which reached 5.49%. General Chairperson of APRindo, Roy Mande, explained that retail businesses were affected by the implementation of PPKM, all those that were changed to PPKM based on level. The PPKM has been implemented since early July 2021. Despite the decline, Roy is optimistic that retail will grow higher in the fourth quarter of 2021. However, he did not explain further the factors that would drive retail more significantly in the fourth quarter of 2021. Previously, Finance Minister Sri Mulyani said PPKM had extraordinary consequences for the economic sector. This is because people's mobility is very strictly limited in order to suppress the transmission of COVID-19. Sri Mulyani explained that community mobility was minus 13.1% during July to August 2021. Likewise, activities in the retail and recreation industry were minus 13.1%. IDX Channel reports. And we're moving on to global update. Lebanon's continuing economic crisis has created a fuel shortage, adding extended power cuts to the miseries of Lebanese. Meanwhile, World Health Organization has called on wealthy countries with large supplies of coronavirus vaccines to refrain from offering booster shots through the end of the year. And more stories on today's International Minute. Lebanon's continuing economic crisis has created a fuel shortage, adding extended power cuts to the miseries of Lebanese, already dealing with skyrocketing inflation and shortage of other basic goods. While experts have said a proposal recently put forth by the U.S. ambassador to revive a transnational gas pipeline running from Egypt to Lebanon could help alleviate the problem. It is far from a long-term solution for the country's continuing failure to generate sufficient electricity. The summer that was supposed to mark America's independence from COVID-19 is instead drawing to a close with the U.S. more firmly under the tyranny of the virus, with deaths per day back up to where they were in March. The Delta variant is filling hospitals, sickening alarming numbers of children, and driving coronavirus deaths in some places to the highest levels of the entire pandemic. School systems that reopen their classrooms are abruptly switching back to remote learning because of outbreaks. The head of the World Health Organization has called on wealthy countries with large supplies of coronavirus vaccines to refrain from offering booster shots through the end of the year, expanding an earlier request that has been largely ignored. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus also said he was appalled at comments by a leading association of pharmaceutical manufacturers a day earlier, who said vaccine supplies are high enough to allow for both booster shots and vaccinations in countries in dire need of jabs but facing shortage. Bill Gates' investment firm will pay Saudi billionaire Prince Al Walid bin Talal $2.2 billion to raise its stake in Four Seasons Holding. Cascade Investment will buy a 23.75% stake from Kingdom Holding, giving the business a $10 billion enterprise value. As part of the all-cash deals, Cascade's stake will increase to 71.25%.
Satgas COVID-19 tetap mengingatkan agar masyarakat tetap disiplin dalam menegakkan protokol kesehatan.
Pemerintah akan melakukan upaya terbaik untuk memvaksinasi sebanyak mungkin orang dan secepat mungkin.
Kementerian Perdagangan optimistis target pemerintah untuk membuat 30 juta UMKM go digital bisa tercapai di akhir tahun 2023. Wisata Bali dan Labuan Bajo hingga saat ini masih menjadi favorit.
Welcome back on Market Headlines. Minister of Industry Agus Gumiwang Kartasasmita targets the contribution of the manufacturing industry to the economy to reach 20% by 2024. This year, its contribution to gross domestic product is estimated to be around 18%. To support this target, Agus targets the manufacturing industry to grow 4% to 5% per year. Meantime, citing BPS data, the contribution of the manufacturing industry to the economy has tended to decline over the past decade. In 2011, the share of the manufacturing industry to GDP reached 21.76%. However, in the second quarter of 2021, the contribution was only 19.29%. The COVID-19 pandemic has also put pressure on the domestic manufacturing industry. The growth of the manufacturing industry in the first quarter of 2021 was minus 1.38% on an annual basis. However, the pace improved to 6.58% in the second quarter of 2021.
Kontribusi dari industri manufaktur terhadap PDB itu sekitar 18% dan kami menargetkan pimpinan by the end of 2024-2025 ini kami menargetkan bahwa kontribusi dari industri manufaktur terhadap PDB itu sudah pada titik 20%. Ya, dan juga tentu sampai tahun 2025 kami juga harus membuat satu program untuk mencapai kontribusi PDB di atas 20%.
Coordinating Minister for Maritime Affairs and Investment Luhut Binsar Panjaitan said that the United Arab Emirates would invest $500 million in Aceh Singkil. Coordinating Minister for Maritime Affairs and Investment Luhut Binsar Panjaitan said the United Arab Emirates would invest $500 million in Aceh Singkil. The investment related to tourism development is in talks with UAE Minister of Energy and Industry, Suhail Mohammed Al-Mazrui. Earlier in March 2021, the Governor of Aceh, Nova Iriansyah, signed a tourism development and investment cooperation with Murban Energy Limited, UAE, which will be centered on Pulau Banyak, Aceh Singkil. Based on discussions with the Aceh Governor, it is certain that investment in Aceh Singkil will not be hampered by the incentives requested by the UAE. Meantime, the UAE said it would build a resort where Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan would occasionally be there. IDX Channel reports. The Toll Road Regulatory Agency, or BPJT, targets to implement touchless toll payments or multi-lane free flow starting in September 2022. The implementation of the first phase will be carried out in 40 toll roads in Java and Bali next year.
The Toll Road Regulatory Agency BPJT targets to implement touchless toll payments or multi-lane free flow starting in September 2022. Head of BPJT Danang Parikesit said that contactless toll payments have many benefits, including reducing congestion at toll gates that causes queues of vehicles, then reduce pollution and carbon emissions by up to 35%. This includes supporting the digitizations of payments by opening all payment options that are monitored in real time to the efficiency of toll operational costs with a guaranteed receipt of 100% of toll revenue. The multi-lane free flow or MLFF system can also save 30 seconds to 5 minutes, which is usually used for transactions at toll gates. Meanwhile, the toll tariff will be deducted automatically from the user's balance through an application that functions as an electronic onboard unit when passing the toll access sensor. The implementations of the first phase is using MLFF technology will be carried out in 40 toll roads in Java and Bali next year. IDX Channel reports.
Four cultural heritage tourism destinations under the management of Taman Wisata Candi have officially received a permit to operate during the PPKM period. Corporate Secretary of Taman Wisata Candi, Emilia Eni Utari, said that the four cultural heritage tourist destinations include Prambanan and Ratu Boko temples in Yogyakarta, Borobudur Temple in Central Java, and Taman Mini Indonesia Indah in Jakarta. And he said these four destinations have received recommendations for operating permits from the Coordinating Ministry for Maritime Affairs and Investment, along with 16 other locations. As for the consideration of the Coordinating Ministry for Maritime Affairs for the opening of tourism, and he said regarding the decline in PPKM levels in the areas where the destinations are located. In addition, the four tourist sites are also sufficient to allow the implementation of health protocols to prevent the spread of COVID-19. She claimed that all tourist destinations under the auspices of TWC have obtained cleanliness, health, safety, and environment sustainability certification. Stay with us on Market Headline because we'll be right back after this quick break.
Seiring meluasnya cakrawala investasi di tengah pasar saham yang dinamis. Analisa mendalam diperlukan untuk menemukan saham berorientasi value yang menghasilkan kinerja yang tinggi. IDX Channel akan mengulas isu pasar dan pergerakan saham terkini. Saksikan ulasannya bersama analis terpercaya hanya di IDX Channel.
Saya Prisa Samodatu membawakan program berita News Screen yang menghadirkan informasi seputar ekonomi maupun juga bisnis dari dalam negeri.
Yang penting menikmati proses, belajar dari semua proses karena sesuai dengan kehidupan gitu ya, semua berproses. Yang abadi di dunia ini adalah perubahan. That's what I think.
Sebenarnya lebih dominan tuh disebutnya apa?
Aku hanya melakukan apa yang aku suka dan aku hanya berusaha konsisten di situ gitu ya. Iya, sebut aja Tia Subiakto.
Satgas COVID-19 tetap mengingatkan agar masyarakat tetap disiplin dalam menegakkan protokol kesehatan.
Pemerintah akan melakukan upaya terbaik untuk memvaksinasi sebanyak mungkin orang dan secepat mungkin.
Kementerian Perdagangan optimistis target pemerintah untuk membuat 30 juta UMKM go digital bisa tercapai di akhir tahun 2023. Wisata Bali dan Labuan Bajo hingga saat ini masih menjadi favorit.
Welcome back. We're in the last segment. At the Jakarta Composite Index intraday movement, earlier today, JCI was open at the level of 6,061.69. And then approaching the closing time on the first session, the index was on the level of 6,034.22. And then the index was showing a strengthening trend by the second session closing time. Index was closed at the level of 6,068.22. In short, JCI went up 0.7%. And next, we're going to see the sectoral movement. Leading the dynamics of today's trading, we got industry as the leader of strengthening trend that went up 3.16%. Infrastructure went up 1.48%. Meanwhile, transportation and logistics went down 0.85%, and cyclical sector went down 0.66%. And moving on to top gainers and top losers, here are the key highlights from today's trading session. From banking sector, BBCA or Bank Sentral Asia went up 2.02% to the level of 32,850 rupiah per share. Arto went up 0.18% to the level of 14,000 rupiah per share. Aneka Tambang went up 5.17% to the level of 2,440 rupiah per share, while Telkom went up 1.8% to the level of 3,390 rupiah per share. From top gainers, we're going to the top losers for today's trading. Bukalapak went down 3.55% to the level of 815 rupiah per share. Fren went down 1.71% to the level of 115 rupiah per share. Agro went down 4.61% to the level of 2,070 rupiah per share. And BBYB, also included in the top losers for today's trading, went down 3.64% to the level of 1,325 rupiah per share. From top losers, let's see the rupiah movement towards US dollar. So today, rupiah opened at the level of 14,278 rupiah, showing weakening trend towards US dollar, and was closed at the level of 14,295. And in summary, rupiah went down 0.53%. Supported by Antar Aja increasingly bright business line, Adi Sarana Armada is optimistic that its net profit target can increase by 170% by the end of 2021. Supported by Antar Aja increasingly bright business line, Adi Sarana Armada is optimistic that its net profit target can increase by 170% by the end of 2021. For information, in first semester, the company recorded revenues of 2.11 trillion rupiah, up 50.4% compared to the same period last year. The revenue contribution in first semester from Antar Aja business line reached 47%, or 982.3 billion rupiah. Furthermore, the vehicle rental business, auto pool and drivers reached 38% of 795 billion rupiah. Other contributions from sales of used vehicles are 9%, from auction services 4%, and from logistics service 3%. According to the company's Director of Business and Services, Suyanto Chung, this year's logistics business line Antar Aja focuses on developing its network and capacity to capture the market from e-commerce, social commerce, and retail service users. The target is that Antar Aja will indeed become the main contributor to revenue with a contribution of between 50 to 55% by the end of the year. IDX Channel reports. As economic conditions improve and the COVID-19 pandemic can be controlled, AKR Corporaindo or AKRA is optimistic that the company's performance this year will grow significantly. AKRA targets the company's performance growth to reach 12% to 15% throughout 2021. For information, AKRA recorded a net profit growth of 28% to 550 billion rupiah in the first semester of 2021. This net profit increased compared to the same period last year, amounting to 432 billion. Meanwhile, according to the President Director of AKRA, Haryanto Adikusumo, the company has several main strategies to spur growth. First, through the growth of trade and distribution, both in energy, basic chemicals, and fuel. The second strategy, AKRA, together with the joint venture British Petroleum, plans to build 350 gas stations in the next 10 years. To date, as many as 16 gas stations have been operating. In addition, AKRA also believes that growth will be spurred by the presence of the Java Integrated Industrial and Port Estate Industrial Area in Gresik, East Java, which has received the status of a special economic zone from the government. Haryanto believes that in the next 3 to 5 years, AKRA can monetize the company's investment in the Java Integrated Industrial and Port Estate. Due to the reactivation of a number of economic activities, Jasa Marga managed to maintain a positive performance during the first semester of 2021. The company's operating income increased by 28.95%.
Jasa Marga managed to maintain a positive performance during the first semester of 2021 in line with the reactivations of a number of economic activities in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. The company's operating income increased by 29.95% from 4.34 trillion rupiah to 5.64 trillion rupiah. This positive record is proof of the improvement in the company's business, which had plummeted in 2021 due to the COVID-19 pandemic by 12.7% from 10.98 trillion rupiah in 2019 and 9.59 trillion rupiah throughout 2020. Investor Relations Department Head of Jasa Marga, Milka Theodora, said that the company's EBITDA also shot up 40.76% in the midterm to 3.62 trillion rupiah from the previous 2.57 trillion rupiah in the same period. This has an impact on increasing the EBITDA margin that the company can record in the first semester of 2021 to 64.1%. IDX Channel reports.
And step aside from market condition as the efforts in achieving herd immunity is still going on. Here it is, an update data about COVID-19 vaccinations in Indonesia. And viewers, the news close our market headlines today. Please enjoy our next program on IDX Channel, Your Trustworthy Economic, Business and Capital Market Channel. And viewers, we can get through this pandemic by staying disciplined on health protocols. Everyone must wear a mask because it can protect us from COVID-19. Use masks properly and encourage family and people around us to do the same. And I'm Fajar Wayong. Have a nice evening and stay safe.
Awali hari Anda dengan beragam informasi bisnis terkini yang kami kemas dalam berita teraktual dan berkualitas. Power Breakfast, informasi terkini seputar ekonomi, bisnis, pasar modal, dan industri kreatif yang dikemas secara ringan. New Screen menyajikan informasi ekonomi, bisnis, dan keuangan. Market Headline menayangkan berita ekonomi dan bisnis dalam bahasa Inggris. Saksikan program-program berita ekonomi dan bisnis terkini langsung dari sumbernya, live hanya di IDX Channel. Your Trustworthy Economic